there's so much happening. I don't even know where to start. So I looked at your last video. So let's just list off a couple of things, right? That they're just out of the ordinary. Number one, TK, your co-host, has a black eye. Okay. Second of all, TK, for the first time in probably years, I've seen him bearish. Okay.
Bearish TK, scary
Yeah,
world, right?
it is a scary world. Then you're telling me you're selling
Mm.
off furniture at your father-in-law's place. And
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're using the proceeds to basically donate all of that to Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party, which is pretty much it, typical for you.
Well, unfortunately, there's losses piling up, and JT won't get a piece of the pie here. There's nothing left for JT. He'll get, I guess, some HST out of the deal,
Okay,
but
that's good.
no income tax. That's for damn sure. Can
Maybe
I?
some. Well, let's talk about the show because that's probably where I want to start. I want to talk about the business of YouTube and your show in particular. The reason is for people that don't know, the Canadian real estate show, as far as I'm concerned, probably has the most loyal audience base. Because I see the same people in the
Oh
comments.
yeah,
You guys are responding to every single one, and this has been going on for years. So the
years.
engagement is pretty much top tier, and so are the viewership stats, right? Because you see videos, sometimes you'll have a video do really well. If you're getting a one-to-one ratio of subscribers to views, so let's say you have 8,000 subs and you're getting 8,000 views, you're doing amazing. Because usually you're getting, 10 to 25% viewership ratio to subs. So if I have 1,000 subscribers, if I get 250 views, that's kind of like the normal is. So you guys
It's
have been,
different though. It's different because we ours is a if you just look at our views on the main channel, it's not an indication of how many people are watching that video because we have the clips channel, which on way less subs gets way more views, right? And then we have our Instagram, which is like so off the charts. I can't even believe how many people watch us on Instagram, right? So it's like if the main show gets 8, 12, 20,000 views, whatever it gets, like that actual episode between all the platforms and all of the little clips and shorts and everything is getting like over 100,000 views every week, right? More than that. It's like probably 150,000 a week right now, which is pretty cool for just like a stupid little real estate show, right?
so what's the end goal there? So you're obviously acquiring the viewership, you're getting the engagement, you're across multiple platforms. Where is this going? Because you're gonna probably blow past 1,000 subs this year. Where is this going?
Well, we never really knew where to direct it. So, I've got a little side project that I'm going to announce in the next couple of months that I'd like to use, the people that like me to try out. It's like a free app that's going to come out. So at some point, you know, that became a use for it. And, I know TK sold some houses. I know that I've got a bunch of properties out of the social media sphere, and it's amazing. Like people send me deals, people call me to give me money, people want to be an architect. It brings people to me instead of me chasing the people I need, right? It's such a valuable tool. If you're doing it just to get ad revenue, then it's the worst gig in town. Or you got to get millions and millions of views, right? But it's just branding, and eventually we'll point it in a certain direction. But we could point it at anything. Right now, we're just so busy with our businesses that, it helps us with our businesses just organically, right? Without really asking for people's business, right?
Let me ask you, can you give us a hint on this app that you're developing? Just a small hint.
It's a cross between Linktree, OnlyFans, and Dropbox. Imagine that.
Okay. All right. What's the OnlyFans part? That's interesting. Not, I
It's
don't even know how
like a
OnlyFans works,
paywall.
but
Just it's a paywall, so you can make subscriptions to the project that you want to share. It's called Shrubs. It's a sharing hub. So it's
okay.
basically a customizable sharing hub. So for a guy like me who has, multiple websites and multiple podcasts and multiple channels and, shares all kinds of content with all kinds of people, instead of sending them a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder, I can send them a whole branded presentation, right?
So, okay. So basically, you're a podcaster, you assemble real estate deals, you
Yeah.
make apps, you liquidate furniture stores, and you
Now I
bankrupt
do that.
them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're basically like the Joe Rogan of real estate in the GTA.
I don't know what I am, but I'm busy. I'm busy, and look, it's all fun, right? I get to be fairly creative. This furniture thing isn't so fun. That I got to tell you. But I mean, I can talk in a microphone for a long time. That's not
Yeah.
hard for me, right? I can talk until, my throat can't talk anymore. And that is generally a long time. And so it all just kind of lends to itself, right? And I attract people that are interested in me, and they tend to want to invest in my deals once they meet me in person. And it just kind of, it's a good thing. So for example, I don't know if I told you this story before or if I even told it on your channel the last time, but like TK brought me my Forest Hill deal on the air, right? Or while we were recording, and I had to pause it and cut it out so nobody else would take my deal, right? Because I said to TK, "Are you crazy? I'm pause. We're making an offer like right now, right?"
That's
And then
amazing.
the my bridal path deal came to me from somebody like through Twitter, who I'm pretty sure followed me on Twitter because they were watching the show, right?
Yeah.
So like I don't know how, and what do I spend? I mean, I do spend money on an editor, but other than that, there's really not much spending. And a lot of that stuff came before the editor, right? Once those things happened, we realized, oh geez, this is super important. Like we should do it better, right? And I got super busy. So, it started in COVID when there was nothing to do, right? We were just trying to stay busy. And then it turned into like, oh my God, this is something that actually needs attention and work. And then work came back like with a vengeance, right? So I started the podcast and the app when COVID started, just to stay busy, because the deal I was in, I wasn't allowed to develop because I went firm on the second piece of an assembly, but I couldn't close it for like a year because of COVID. So the owner wouldn't let me do the application for redevelopment. So I just like did the podcast and this stupid app that was supposed to cost like, I think the original quote was $1,800. And I'm on version 2 already. I haven't released anything, and I'm definitely in for way more than that. But it's all
Okay.
fun and games around here.
Well, fun and games. Speaking of fun and games, let's talk about the real estate market. My
Real
favorite
estate.
question, how's the market? Which I don't have to answer. You're going to answer that for me. Look, I know
Yeah.
if I scroll through your channel and I look at the thumbnails, I know we've been crashing I think since the channel started. But I
Four and
also
a half
understand
years.
engagement. I understand the game, right? So let me
Sure.
ask you, next 6 to 12 months, what do you think is going to happen here in Toronto or GTA
Oh
in
my God.
general?
Assuming there's tariffs, or are we going to pretend like tariffs aren't looming?
Well, assume as you wish. Assume if the tariffs are gonna come. Like I don't know where you stand on that. I mean, obviously Trump likes to create chaos. Just assume we're gonna have chaos. How is that gonna impact the market? Where, like realistically, where are we at 6 months from now?
I mean, I can't imagine being in a better place 6 months from now. Up until very recently, I did imagine, 6 months from now starting to be a little rosier. Actually, up until a couple weeks ago, I kind of felt like things were already starting to feel rosier. But this whole tariff thing really just sucked the wind out of that, like completely. And then, like, now you got Trump making deals with other countries that can supply the stuff, right? We're talking about sending it to other places to replace the states, and they're talking about sourcing it from other places to replace us. So, like, our bargaining position with them is getting worse and worse and worse. I don't know what we're bargaining over, though, but whatever it is, I think we're going to lose. But I think it'll be painful while we're losing, right? We saw Tiff kind of telling us, we don't really have anything to combat this, right? And this will give, I guess, long lasting repercussions to our economy. I mean, for me, it just seems like somebody else must need this stuff, right? We got to be able to figure out a way to get it there, can't we? Didn't China say like we'll take all your everything that you're selling to the US, we'll take it.
No. So you're net bearish, and I think most of that is because of the chaos from the coming from the US. Had it not been for that, you were actually net positive. Is that
Well,
fair?
I'm always net positive, right? I kind of have to be, but I am. Like over the long term and with certain product, I'm very bullish, right? Like very bullish. But I mean, I'm not stupid either. I see what's going on out there. I mean, nobody wants the product that's out there, okay? And then a lot of the product that's sitting on the market, houses as well, these people they bought so stupid. Like they were so dumb. Okay. Like the people that are getting it, some people weren't dumb, right? Some people's lives changed, but a lot of like if you look at some of these giant losses, like that Shazi puts up, like they bought in 2023 and they're already in trouble. Like what the hell were they doing? Right? What's going on? So there's bad shit going on in the market. It's a disaster. There's tons of inventory that people don't want or that's on the market at a price that somebody has to get to avoid going broke, right? Reality hasn't set in. And so tariffs is just going to just knock the shit out of what we're already in, right? Like the condo market is horrific, right? Pre-construction dog crate condos, okay? This is a horrible business right now. It was probably a horrible business years ago, but now it's out there and the units are coming online. This is the big problem. Nobody wants the shit that's out there. There's more shit coming this year, and there's even more shit coming the year after that, right? So people are saying the rents are coming down because there's so many of those things right now, and there's so many more coming. But a good unit, the rent's not down. The problem is there's nothing good.
There's so much to unpack here. Like, look, I was in December, I was actually feeling pretty optimistic for 2025. Then 2025 came and went. I did just under half a dozen deals so far this year. And between buying and selling, it's been busy, but there are a few trends emerging. So for example, you're going to ask 10 realtors, they're going to tell you 10 different things. I like to bring most properties with an offer night, regardless of how crappy the market is. The reason is, it's for me, it's intel gathering. So what if the offer night flops? At least I will have an idea of where we stand, and I can see basically in a very quick amount of time what the appetite from buyers is. So I'll tell you one offer night we had. We had 48 showings, we had 10 offers. Okay, and we sold for him and everything worked out. Here's the catch. When I'm going to avoid specific numbers, I don't want to say what listing it is, but let's say the range for this property that I told the sellers is we're going to sell between 950 and a million. We listed it at 900 for an offer night, so not too low. We kept it fairly, reasonable. 10 offers come in, we sold for the low end of that budget. So closer to 950 than to a million, but we're in the budget. We sold firm, everybody's happy. But when you see 10 offers, you feel or you figure you're at least going to sell at the top end of that range that you thought. But that's not the case. And I'm seeing that across the board. You see people have offer nights, they'll sell, but it will be reasonable price, nothing crazy. But then on the flip side, I was going to put in an offer on a place near the beaches yesterday on Monday, sold with a bully offer over the weekend, and somebody overpaid by $200,000. If the place
Overpaid
was,
or paid over asking?
they paid 500 over asking, which was the bidding,
Ah,
but I'm talking market. Market of this place was under 2 million. Somebody went and paid well over $2 million. So that's why somebody took the bully offer. So it's stuff like that that's it makes it difficult to kind of make sense of what's happening. But net, I feel things are kind of slowish. And I got to tell you, the biggest concern I have is rentals. Like, forget rent dropping, things are just not renting out. So that's the problem.
wait. That's so weird because my daughter, who's fresh in the industry, she's working on all kinds of leases right now. She just signed like three in 1 week,
But
actually,
sorry, to lease out or working for the tenant or for the landlord.
for the tenant.
Oh, that's a great place to be.
It's a good place to be. Now, though, I mean, again, it's the same thing. If you have something that people want, it's a different game than like a slummy piece of shit, you know, one plus den that is missing the den, or like. But this is what's out there. Have you seen that guy on TikTok, Dink, who goes into people's houses and says to see if it's a ripoff? Have you seen that?
I think where he goes to like roommate slumlord type of places.
All
Yeah,
kinds
yeah,
of yeah,
yeah,
like the average apartment in Toronto, right?
yeah.
This is what's out there. This is what people have to choose from or choose when they're looking for a place, right? And so you see people in 350 square feet with all their shit all over the place, paying 1,800 plus utilities, and they're not even really technically in the building. They're like in this little box they've attached to the building or something. It's just ridiculous how unfair some of the people's living situations are in a city like this, right? And so, I mean, those I think are the rents that'll be going down because somebody looking in a certain price range has all kinds of options for the shitty stuff and the small stuff that nobody wants that's flooded the market. How many, you know, how many 1,300 square foot three bedrooms are there sitting around in the rental pool, right? I
I
don't know.
gotta
I
tell you,
see stuff going for over 10 grand a month like crazy. Like there's so many of them.
I, I gotta tell you, even the good stuff is struggling right now to rent, and that's the
Really.
concern for me. I think that's a net positive for the market because if rents come down, I suspect we'll have another leg down on condos, which depends on what
Okay.
side you're sitting on, but I'm telling you, even good units right now are sitting, and not because they're not desirable, but because there's just so much out there to choose from that why am I gonna do this one plus den here that's nice, that's 700 square feet when I can just go down the street for 200, $300 a less and get the same thing?
Well, it
And
depends where you live. That's like downtown
yeah, I'm
Toronto, but
talking
it's not.
downtown.
Yeah, it's not everywhere else. So if you don't want to live downtown, it's not the same scenario, right? If you
Fair point.
not every right, so not everybody wants to live downtown and more people want to rent stuff. It's just like the market has to adjust to the new reality of like the end user is going to buy the thing or rent the thing and there's a lot of options. It's so healthy for the market. I mean, listen, if I had a building with 400 little micro units for sale right now, I wouldn't be saying this, right? I wouldn't be. But I personally never understood that whole thing and who was buying those units, right? I never understood who could just, buy a 350 square foot unit off a set of drawings and then walk into it on day one and go, oh, like this is exactly what I envisioned for my space, right? This is great. It never works that way. So, like, of course, you had that whole crazy stuff. You were not selling to anyone who intended on owning it. How does that not work out like poorly?
Yeah, I really don't think I don't know how pre-construction comes back. I really don't see it unless there's some drastic changes in development fees or just costs are cut and then you bring in different product. But I just don't see it. I think
Different
pre-con,
product,
well, I mean, not dog crate condos, but the thing is, dog crate condos are the only thing that sells quick. Nobody wants to live in a condo as an end user. Most people don't. Not here anywhere, right? They want a house, they want a detached, they want a townhouse, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know. I think pre-con is dead. This is going to be the last decade, I think, for pre-con.
yeah. I don't know what turns those taps back on, right? And so I mean, I imagine at some point in time, we'll have another cycle where that makes the most sense again. Like if you look at a city like New York, there's tons of these micro units, tons of these small units, right? And then if you probably look at the new stock in New York, they're all giant luxury suites, right? Because all of a sudden that started making sense and penciling for the developers. And though, right? And then probably now they're also going through something similar again, where people are starting to build purpose-built rentals because condos don't sell, right? It seems like it's just a perpetual cycle that, I mean, if somebody used their brains, condos are a bad idea, I think, to begin with for the most part, especially like 400 units. It's a crazy endeavor, that whole thing. But people don't mind living in buildings that are maintained well, that are small, quaint, personal, um, that don't feel like just a big concrete jungle, right? But the numbers don't work for that. So the market has to go through a period where we can somehow build less on a property, build bigger units, and people can still afford them. I don't know how that plays out. Currently, it's only in the luxury space, right? If you know, the high-end luxury boutique condos are selling fine, okay?
Yeah,
They're selling fine. You can talk to anybody in that space. It's a fact, right? So there are end users with money that want to buy certain things, right? And you don't need a giant market when you have a few units to sell, right? But that can't help the market. That's not helping anybody, right? That's helping, right? We need the people that can't afford stuff to be able to buy stuff, right? I mean, it's helping some people, hopefully me, right?
yeah,
But it's not bringing on anything that helps people, right? So incentivizing purpose-built rental buildings and lowering development fees on those and getting investors who weren't really investors before, but still have money that they want to invest to start thinking more along the lines of getting into like PBR pools, right? PBR funds so that they can make a good return on that kind of stuff because there's not even a condo to invest in if you wanted to now.
that's
What are
right.
people doing with their money? I mean, I'm desperately looking for stuff to do with my money, right? I got sitting in fucking GICs at 2.75%. I'm afraid of stocks. So I'm looking for something that I understand that makes more than that, that's safe. Like, what is there?
Yeah, no, it's I get it. I want to bring you back to the tariffs for a second. So there's two things I'm going to say about tariffs. Back in 2018, when Trump was in power, I was building my first commercial building, 10,000 square feet, steel construction, all that stuff. And that's when the tariffs came along. And then that's when we did the tit for tat retaliation in aluminum and steel, I believe. And it was perfect timing for me because I had just put the PO for a building. I was buying it from Ohio and I got smoked with all these tariffs. So thanks to Trump, my entire budget on that building, I think we went over 10%, and pretty much 10% of that was directly tied to tariffs and nothing else. So, and that back then it was just those two things, nothing to do with the auto sector. Now, in a prior life, I used to work for all the Magnas and the big tier one suppliers in automotive. And if these tariffs do actually come in, I think there's going to be minor Armageddon across the auto industry, which is going to impact us massively, especially here in Ontario, because there are a ton of jobs that are tied to it. Now, what's interesting is when Trump first started talking about tariffs in late January, this is before I became bearish. I'm part of a few real estate realtor groups, right? So I kind of monitor what's happening just to watch sentiment on that end as well. Not that it's a good indicator, but I like looking at different things. I like looking at your show. I want to see what TK is doing. I want to see what everybody's doing. And one of the questions that kept coming up a number of times is realtors were asking how to objection handle clients, buyer clients that are coming in and saying, I'm scared about the tariffs. I don't want to buy anymore. I want to postpone the purchase. And that is real. That threat had an immediate impact to the real estate market. And I can tell it from buyer clients, like, I mean, if you're not tied to the auto industry, like it doesn't matter, but it still kind of does because there's trickle down effect. So that was very interesting because these tariffs now, especially the way he speaks very vaguely, creates so much chaos around everyone that now everybody is scared. And I think this actually will have significant implications for as long as this guy keeps threatening to do them. Whether or not he does, I don't know. But even the threats, they really are impacting the market. You can see it, you can feel it.
Yeah, it's evident everywhere. I mean, just the auto industry on its own. The problem with the auto industry here is that, I mean, we became an integral cog in their auto industry. We don't have an auto industry here, right? We're just sending it all to them, right? Or building it all here for them to send there or wherever the hell they've sold it. These are not Canadian companies. They're Canadian subsidiaries, right? So why wouldn't they just close up shop here and go back home where it makes most sense? Like this is a no-brainer. It's not like it's a Canadian company struggling with like, their Canadianness, right? Their patriotism and wanting to, make Canada great again, right? So Trump said it. We stole their auto industry. Their bureaucrats allowed Canada to steal their auto industry, and he's going to take it back. And yeah, people, I think, better brace. If you're yeah, you're probably pretty dumb if you're in the auto industry in Canada right now and you're thinking about making a big purchase. That seems like something that you probably should postpone, right? And especially if your renewals coming up and it's like more than you can handle, like these are this is the stuff that's going to be coming on the market, I would imagine, like pretty damn soon if it's not already starting to trickle in. Because Trump's the kind of guy, like he's all ego. So he's not going to do the tariffs now. Nothing is going to happen other than us becoming the 51st state that will stop tariffs from at least initially coming on the 4th. He's not going to back off again, right? Just to prove a point. Look what he's doing. He's making deals with Putin, for God's sakes, on aluminum and other minerals, right? He's making Ukraine pay back the debt, right? He's not just giving them the money. He's like, you're going to send us your aluminum and all your precious metals to pay this back. There's going to be so much craziness here. And then as the auto industry crumbles and unemployment ranks up from that, or whatever the right wording is, like as that starts to go up from that, I mean, where are all those jobs going? Where are they going? They're not going to driving trucks because all that slows down, right? And is getting automated as we speak. Like, where are all these jobs going? It's gonna be weird around here. Meanwhile, like the people that are making money, they're making a lot of money right now. There's people that are making a ton of money regardless of this. Some people that I know, have taken this to analyze their business and realize it just makes sense anyways to go move, right? Like, why aren't we just doing this anyways? Why don't we just open up a manufacturing plant in the States regardless, right? Like, why are we doing it this way? Why are we making it here and sending it there? That's dumb.
So I have a different perspective, and this is again coming from being a finance guy at one of these tier one suppliers way back in the day. So I've been out of that game for like 10 years. But
Yeah.
I used to be the guy that used to sit on an Excel sheet and basically decide whether or not we're closing operations in Ohio or in Detroit or any of these places. And to retool a place and change a supply chain in the auto industry is extremely difficult. Like that's not something that you can even do during Trump's term, the 4 years. It's not enough time. I mean, maybe you can do some stuff, but I think a lot of the stuff he's obviously shooting for the stars, and I don't know what he's gonna hit. I don't know. I don't even know if the deals he's making are actually real deal. I don't even know what to believe, right? You you read one thing, you don't know if it's true. You read another thing, I don't know. I really don't know. So
Yeah.
I think the automotive industry is going to be an interesting one, but they've been using Canada and Mexico because we're cheaper. It's just they're taking advantage of the FX. And when I left the automotive industry, let's say 10 years ago or whenever it was, I got to tell you, we there was a lot of things were moving to Mexico. And for years they've been saying the auto industry is going to get automated. It's going to get automated. And I've seen automation play out everywhere, like here in Vaughan and Markham. I've seen the robots come in, but what people don't realize is, first of all, these robots are super expensive, and then they're very difficult to maintain. So you need very strategic, you need maintenance guys that understand them. And the problem with automotive is everything is just in time. So JIT. So basically, if you go down for an hour or two, you could be facing fines of up to like $1 million if you shut down an assembly plant in Dearborn. So what they ended up doing is they started moving stuff to Mexico because Mexico, they can just throw bodies at a problem, and the quality of product was actually pretty good. So when VW moved a bunch of stuff to Mexico, they realized we don't even need robots because we have so much human capital. We can
We have
throw at a problem.
Mexicans.
Right, and there's no downtime and there's nothing because if something shuts down because of labor, they can just bring in another pool of labor and it's no big deal and things just get fixed and there's no specialty robots or anything like that. So I don't know. I've heard a bunch of stuff, automation, AI, and I think it just takes time, but I'm not sold on it that it's going to fix a bunch of stuff. So how much Trump, I don't know, but Trump will cause damage just because of sentiment and because of uncertainty. Because when people are not sure if they're going to have a job tomorrow, guess what? Everything kind of comes down to a grinding halt. So he is for me personally a concern. Even here, just the amount of hatred towards Elon Musk and Trump right now is just, to me it feels like it's crazy and how fast it flipped. Just everybody talks about them and they hate them.
I don't know if it's everybody, but there's certain people that certainly don't appreciate some of the stuff that's going on. It is a lot of stuff going on, right? There's a lot of stuff happening really quickly. And it's like Every day you hear of a new executive order, you hear of Doge finding more crazy corruption somewhere, you hear of new people being appointed. Like the people he's appointing to things is absolutely like amazing, right? It's a wonderful theater to watch. It really is a wonderful theater to watch. And quite honestly, listen, I've loved Trump forever. I don't love everything he does. I don't like everything he says. Okay. But if he was running Canada right now, I'd feel a hell of a lot better than I do. Like, I don't know who else would do a better job than he's doing for the States now. And they may have to go, he might be the guy. You understand? Like, everybody always says nobody's willing to go through that pain, period, right? Nobody's willing to go through the short-term pain to get to like something better. We just keep kicking it down the road again, right? Kicking it down the road again. And so Trump, I don't think he's dumb enough to think that everything he's doing isn't going to have a negative effect on his country. I just think he has the vision to see that if it actually plays out the way he's thinking it's going to play out, that his country will be better off for it all, right? And it is better if jobs come back to the United States. And it is better if they get their auto industry back. It is better if they make their own aluminum, you know? That's better for them. And it's the same for us. Like, why are we doing all this stupid shit we're doing? If we're so good at making auto parts, like, let's make some cars for God's sakes. If we're so good at making cars, like, can't our government like stopgap all this shit by keeping the plants going under a new brand name? I don't know. They must have like you change one little thing and the patent's fucked. So now it's a Canadian car, right? And we can't tariff the shit out of the US so we can only buy Canadian cars. There's so many ways of doing it, but it's going to be painful first because, like you said, to retool takes time, right? To do all this stuff takes time. So, I mean, is he crazy? He doesn't have another term. He can do whatever he thinks is best for the country. He's not trying to get reelected. He's trying to do the best thing. That's what I think. That's what I'm hoping. I hope that him and Musk aren't the antichrists that are just going to destroy everything for everybody. Because listen, at the end of the day, what do they say when the United States sneezes, Canada catches a cold? Well, the inverse is true too. When that place is rocking and rolling and booming, like we'll find a way to milk off that teat again, right? I think.
So I'm not a Trump fan. Okay. I'm not a Trump fan. I understand fiscal responsibility. I understand that we all need to kind of tighten our belts in general. So I understand going through the Doge and all that stuff. I get the premise of it. For me, I guess it's the mixing of the literally what he says versus what he actually does. So if you take him literally, it's a big mess. Like he's just going in and breaking stuff. But then the actions don't usually match the words, which is what gives me hope that he's not going to be as impactful as people think in the sense that he's not going to destroy everything. I just don't think a single person can do that. But again, we'll see. So I do agree with the fact that we got to cut back. I mean, the states has to cut back. We have to cut back. We all have deficits and stuff. And obviously, this could lead to another Argentina where everything gets completely devalued and crazy inflation. But because the American dollar is pegged as the petrodollar to this date, that's why they have the luxury of doing what they do. Um, but yeah, look, I don't know enough about the politics in the US from both sides to really even know what is true and what isn't, because like I said, it's super confusing. And I think to fact check every single thing, it makes no sense. But just what comes out of Trump's mouth doesn't make sense. But I
No.
understand why he got elected because of kind of like the greener pasture that he's offering to everybody. But at what cost? I think everybody's going to be surprised at what cost that's going to be.
I personally, when I'm negotiating, I mean, there's not too many times where I've gone in at my max price, right? With my best terms, right? And every meeting I'll go into is heavily focused on all the issues, right? But that, I mean, this is negotiation 101. So what's he doing? He's just really driving some points home so that whenever they really get to the table, yeah, who knows how big an impact it is. But if they can recuperate anything through these tariffs, I mean, it reduces their spending. And they have so much bloat. Like, have you seen some of the stuff? Have you seen some of the stuff Doge is uncovering, and like they're paying people that are 250 years old, and like it's pandemonium over there. And that's what happens like as the bureaucracies grow. I mean, we see it here in Canada. How corrupt is this place, for God's sakes? This is a third world country we live in right now. It just doesn't look like it, right? There isn't dirt everywhere and huts, but we're all just sitting here basically mining the resources one way or another for very, very wealthy powers that really probably are not Canadian, right? And I think this is a big part of what Trump's doing too. Like he's got enemies surrounding him right now that have infiltrated these countries. Okay. Because like there's so many people coming in through these borders and coming in through these countries that just shouldn't be there. He doesn't know what's going on. His borders are so insecure or unsecure, it's ridiculous, right? And now he's got all these other big, like all these other countries with way more people, the same level of resources, money printing machines. Like, I don't know if this is different warfare now too, right? Like you got Palantir is your war machine. You got AI and drones and robots and all kinds of like I don't know, coding or what's it called? Like online shit. Like you could just wipe out a country by typing a couple lines of code now.
Oh man, that not the most optimistic picture, but yeah, I get it.
No, but listen, I mean, if you get any point in time, I think there's all this murkiness lurking around. But I mean, with social media, it's far more accessible. And now with AI, you can really imagine, all kinds of crazy stuff and visualize it too. But you don't know what's true either. It's a crazy way to live right now.
Well, that's
But
that's my biggest issue. I really don't know what is fact and what is not fact, right? Like they say
yeah.
this, they say that, and who's gonna spend hours a day fact checking this stuff? So we're kind of just going blind. Like I really don't know.
Well, we
Maybe somebody
find
does.
guys
Maybe
online that we trust, right? We find guys online that we feel we can trust and we research. And I mean, some people do go do their own research, right? Some people do actually get down to things, but they're always the crazy people, right?
so
Nobody
far.
believes that because it's so
So
far-fetched.
So far, the only thing I have found, I usually will go to Grok or Chat GPT, depending on what I'm researching. And I'm like, listen, steel man this argument or give me the pros and cons of this, summarize it, and let me read the bullet points. Because I really don't know how else to really understand it. Wow. So what do you think is going to happen here now with Justin Trudeau and our political uh, misfortune, I guess, or whatever you want to call it?
It's so crazy what's going on. Like, just if you really go back and you watch what the Liberal Party has done, right? Like the guy steps down but doesn't step down. Then they raise the bar financially for anybody that wants to challenge for the spot. And then anybody that gains any traction, they find a way of kicking out of the party, right? And then we get stuck with people that I don't even think was Freeland always a politician. Anyways, it's
She was
like
a journalist, I think, before.
right? Like, what's going on? And we're all just taking it. Like, how long are we going to take it for? How long can this bullshit continue? It's crazy. Like, this isn't even politics anymore. It's just a show. It's just a crazy show with some weird agenda behind it that none of us are currently privy to, but it doesn't feel like it's going in the direction that the people really want it to. So hopefully, some truckers or maybe some farmers or maybe a bunch of podcasters can get a revolution going because something's got to change, right? It can't go like this. The people like there's too many people that don't want it to go like this anymore. No?
Is
Am I
there
am I
okay? Are
alone?
there, well, I just want to know if specific. Do you have specific examples of what you want to change?
Well, I would love to not see $5 billion, of which some is mine, okay? And quite honestly, a very nice chunk of it is mine, okay? I pay a lot of taxes for fuck's sakes. No, but I don't want it going to Ukraine for anything. I never did, right? And look, Ukraine's beautiful, okay? The people are lovely, but deal with your own shit. We have way bigger problems here, okay? We're in debt up to our eyeballs with no way out. And we're giving stuff to the craziest shit here. And we're allowing scandals to unfold in front of our eyes with no repercussions. Like, this can't continue. A scandal after scandal, a Rive scam, and then the what was the real estate scam with Trudeau's buddies, and I mean the guy raped little girls when he was a teacher, and it gets covered up. Like people know all these stories. He's Castro's son, for God's sakes, right? Like maybe some is true, some isn't true, but he's a absolute laughing stock joke that shouldn't be running a country, right? And it's not like Canada's not an important country. You can't play down the importance of the shit we have here, right? It's stuff everybody needs. You cannot argue, right? We have lumber, we have gold, we have silver, palladium, potash, oil, natural gas, water, and the northern border. Probably the most important thing that we have, the newest, best trading route on earth. Okay. Like we are so undervalued on this world stage. This is why they're coming after us hard and heavy because we're a bunch of pussies right now. They can take us. No, but they can literally take us. What are we going to do? Honestly, like if they really, I don't think people realize what's at stake right now. When you have Russia and China and India and Brazil, okay, all getting closer to a level playing field, and the Middle East with more money than God, okay, all these things are not in line with the American values anymore, okay? And then Europe's kind of flip-flopping and they're pissing off Canada and Mexico. This is craziness what's going on. So, yeah, who's buying a house,
Well, you
right?
don't think
Unless
our
you're
war
so
canoe,
rich,
you don't think our
what?
war canoe is gonna put off the states? We can deploy our
Maybe
war canoe. I think
we
we have two of
could.
them.
We might have two war canoes. But listen, I mean, maybe we can drop water on them with our water bombers, right? Because we're so nice and helpful.
No, we have no chance.
No, listen, I gotta think that like some kind of calmer heads will prevail, and it's not gonna be this doomsday scenario, but like these are all the things floating around. It's not just about like this tariff thing. Right? There's so many underhanded, corrupt things going on in the background that it's like, I don't know, you got to do some crazy stuff to try and get back to normal, whatever the hell that is. But all kinds of things are changing. Like, look at kids in school, the school system. Everything is changing around us. People will still always need a place to live, right? So, whenever this cycle kind of readjusts, whatever that looks like, how long could that take? How long have we been doing this for, really? How long has it been? When was the peak? 2021?
February 22.
2022?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're like on 3 years now.
Yeah.
How much longer? Is this a 7 more years of this?
Well, just I looked at the historical crashes for the last, call it 4 decades, and typically it takes in a metro area like this 5 to 7 years to recover from a crash, and then in more tier two outside of the GTA it can take like over 10 years. So
So, but did we crash? Was that a crash?
I think
This
it's
is the
just
question.
a reversion to the mean. So if you look at it, like we crashed and then we've been trading flat for 2 years. 2024 was flat, 2023 was flat, 2022 was, let's say 20% haircut, and now we're just flat. And this year is likely, you know what, it could be flat or maybe even a little bit less than flat. But then if you look at just historically where we should be and not accounting for inflation adjusted, call it prices, we're just reverting to the mean in terms of growth. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, depending on how long it takes to revert back to the mean and really flatten out, I mean, I can't, I know there's a lot of supply now, but I mean, most of it will get absorbed and there's nothing else behind it.
Well, so
So
here, let's talk about supply because for 3 years now, people have been saying on Twitter or wherever else, look how many listings. They'll show a House Sigma snapshot and there's thousands of listings. What I don't like about that is there's never context. Because for the most part, like it's normal to have 16,000 listings in the month of May. That's normal, right? So people don't have any idea. But what's not normal is what's happening right now. Like if you look at January and February, our listings are 40 to 50% above seasonal norms. So I'm now concerned. For the last 2 years, when people said, oh my God, we have so many active listings, I really didn't care because seasonally we were fine. But right now we're not. And then couple
I don't
that
know
with,
about seasonal.
in what sense?
I don't know. I like to watch where the trend is and month over month, month to month. What do I what you know how different last year was at this time and how different it was the year before? I know that there are some trends that look like they're somewhat seasonal, and I know that there are trends that are seasonal, but there's so many other factors and the world moves so fast now. Like look at the last few years and tell me where that trend is. It's all
But
over the map.
But
No? Am I crazy?
you're not crazy, but I want you to look at it a different way. This is why right now seasonal data is more important than ever. Because if you look at the last 5 years, they're all very different and there is no trend. And I've looked at it. There is no trend because every single year it's been either COVID, post-COVID, and then the last 2 years have been kind of like we're just, this is the hangover from the party. But right now, comparing to seasonal norms is why it's so important. So you know where you stand relative to what is normal. And normal is changing, but usually this
That's what I'm
market,
saying. Normal's so different. So for me, I always look at the month over month and just see where things are heading, right? Just see where things are heading, and that's it for me. Because I don't understand who's going, well, there's way more inventory this year than last year, Margie. And last year prices at this point in time were down 1.3%. And I think we should base our decision on everything with now. Like who cares other than the realtors who are trying to justify, their incomes? Why, if I need to buy in March, what the fuck do I care? What the hell happened in the last 6 Marches? I don't care. I care what's going on, what I think might be going on next month, not based on last year or the year before that month of March. I want to know based on January, February, which direction are we going? Maybe bring December in, right? Is it up and down? Is it down? Is it up? Has it gone up for 6 months? But it's so much, right? Let's say prices are going up or inventory, whatever's going up for 6 months straight, but year over year, it's down 40%. What is that telling you? What are you following in that case?
so see,
3 months straight, even.
so personally for me, a pet peeve of mine is comparing when people compare month over month or year over year, month over. So this March to last March, to me, completely pointless exercise doing that. It tells me zero.
Okay.
Also, comparing month over month without the seasonal context is also irrelevant because, as an
Mm,
example, if you look at the last 20 years, just look at the data for the last 20 years, between January and May, despite the economy, despite what's happening, despite COVID, despite whatever, prices always go up. So this is a seasonal spring trend that happens every year, even in a bad economy, even in a slow market, whatever. Between January and May, prices will go up. So if you're starting your search in January, if you don't buy in January and February, most likely 99% you're going to be paying more for the exact same property in May. Okay? Simple. And then we also know September is the next leg up. So in the summer, prices come down. In September, they go back up. So for me, it's important to know if prices are going down from January into February. To me, that's concerning because that is not just against trend, it's against seasonal trend. So that tells me you have way bigger issues when in the last 20 years that has never happened. So that's why it's
yeah.
important for me to look at it. So for example, now I know if my baseline inventory number for the month of January, based on 16 or 20 years of data, is 11,000 listings, and I currently have 16,000 listings, I know we're in trouble this year. Because last year, if the norm was 11,000 listings and we were at 12,000 listings, we were okay. And
Yeah.
that's why last year we had a decent spring market and then everything fell flat on its face in the fall and we had a flat
Yeah.
year. And this year, if you look at the last 2 years and seasonal trend, what it's telling us is we might have an okay spring market, which is going to fizzle off very fast. And then we're going to have a down year or a flat year. What it's telling us currently, and this is all based on seasonal trends. I can't derive that if I'm just looking at what happened this month versus last month because I don't have the
No.
context.
And then the whole thing, regardless of which side of this debate you're on, is moot when something like March 2020 comes down the pipe, right? So, right, all of a sudden there's COVID, March 12th, 2020, and what happens? Like this is not on any chart or in any
No,
forecast, right? And so what I'm saying now is it's even harder than it there. Trends used to be a lot more relevant, I think, because the world moved much slower and news traveled much slower and sentiment couldn't be affected as easily, right? Before. And so now you have things that like have major effects and major swings like instantly on every market, including the real estate market. So like 3, 4 weeks ago, we're all feeling like things are kind of coming back again. And then boom, somebody says tariffs, and everybody's like, oh, Jesus, that, right? The chaos that was inserted into the equation that nobody saw coming, right? All of a sudden, it's like, oh, nah, the brakes are back on, right? Maybe they're not like slammed on, but they're back on for sure from where we were. And then there's so many things that could happen right now that could just uh, change things drastically. And I'm not saying in a negative way, because look what happened in COVID. It stopped instantly, and then the good times have never been gooder, right? Like for 2, 3 years, it went insane. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody, right? Nobody saw that coming, except for what's his name on Twitter, Macro. What's his name? He knew everything.
Oh, I'm
Abe,
sure.
Abe, he knew everything ahead of time, right? But
He's
everybody
pretty.
else, nobody
He's
knows.
actually pretty good. He's pretty good at, the kind of detecting the cycles.
I'm not even fucking joking. Like
Yeah.
he was actually right from the get-go,
Yeah, he
right?
was. He was. That is very true. One thing I'll say to about what you just said, with all the uncertainty and all the chaos, I think there's another side to it though, because the news cycle moves so fast. I think the impact of good or bad news is smaller now because there's so many big events happening back to back to back where it loses its luster. So it's like, does it really even matter because it moves so fast? So like Trump tariffs, it's a flash in the pan. And
Right.
so April 2nd, it's the big date. For sure, it's going to be delayed or something else. And then people are going to be like, okay, flash in the pan. This guy's not serious or whatever. And I think that was the learning for me from 2016 is that he just talks a lot, but the action to back it up is usually not there. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean, ignore anything he says because you just never know. But I just feel that
You never
you're
know.
right. Things are moving much faster, but because they're moving much faster, it makes them that much less relevant because there's just always something really big happening. So that's the new norm. I listen, I have people
It's
now.
true.
I have people now. I have a bunch of listings that are supposed to come out. Let's say just under 10 for this spring market. And I can tell you that I work predominantly with downsizers, and some of the downsizers right now are actually saying I'm going to postpone my listing because of all the uncertainty that Trump is bringing because all they care about is selling at max price. And I get it. I get it. But what is to say, and I'm not saying list or don't list. I respect your opinion and that's totally fine. But what's to say that
Yeah.
next year it's not going to be something else? Because I can guarantee you next year it's going to be if it's not Trump tariff, it's going to be Trump was assassinated and the new person in place
Who
is doing
knows?
something even crazier. I don't know. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how do you look at fucking seasonally adjusted trends, right? Because it's like everything's so crazy and something that just pops out of nowhere that's never in anybody's model. Like,
well,
who
well,
the
the
hell
reason
knows?
the seasonal trends work, in my opinion, is because certain first principles, people still need to buy in the spring to be ready for the school year for the next year. So you're gonna always have active families. Just it's nature. Springtime, your house shows the best, right? Again, natural stuff. Summer is slow because everybody's on vacation. People are not gonna stop vacationing because Trump said tariffs. They're gonna still do their thing. So this is
Yeah.
seasonally going to impact these are first principles in terms of how people behave throughout the 12 months that we have to take into account, in my opinion, regardless of what's happening. But I get your point, and I think it's fair. I think we're both right.
I agree. I think you're probably more right than me.
I don't think so because I don't know what I'm doing. But
Join the
that's
club. Join the club. Uh,
at least we can talk a bunch of smack online.
That's right. What else is happening?
Well, not much. I wanted to ask you about actually because pre-con being dead, but then on the
Yeah.
flip side, you are net bullish long term, and your daughter is in real estate. And I don't think you would have ever allowed that to happen if you didn't feel bullish real estate long term. So I guess the question for you is with the Forest Hill project, what are the next steps? Because I know you're ready to go, all that stuff's
Yeah.
done. What happens next over the next 12 to 24 months?
We sell out, we start construction, and away we go. Listen,
Well,
it's a
talk to me about
different
the selling.
environment.
I know
It's
it's
a
going to be a
different
different
environment,
product.
right?
Tell me
Different
about the selling
product.
process.
Well, I'll be honest with you. We're still trying to kind of formulate the selling process because I don't think it's going to be a typical sales process for this thing. I don't think it's a typical project. I don't think it's a typical product. I don't think I don't want the sales experience to feel typical. So we want the sales experience to kind of lead into the experience that you will have as a owner in this building, right? And so I feel like because it's in one of the most unique spots in the whole city, and that it literally will not be replicated ever again in that area, something anywhere close to this. And the wonderful design that like Richard Wengel is a world-class architect. Like this guy is everywhere. He's a monster. And so he just designed such a beautiful, perfect building. And we really, listen to what people in this category are looking for, right? So we made huge suites with big balconies and just everything's a corner. So there's lots of windows in every single suite. Everybody gets 2 parking spots and, half the units have private elevator access. It's really designed for like your client, a downsizer who has a lot of money and a giant house, loves the area and wants to be part of like this unique luxury kind of hotel experience, right? So the sales process, we're still imagining it. It will be happening, in the next few months. We'll start getting the marketing going. And I mean, we already have a list of people just from the current investment pool that are just waiting for us to give them a price and something to sign. Quite honestly, I have these people, I guess they watched the show, this really lovely man and his son. His son's like 40, who they keep taking me for lunch at the cricket club, to get on the list, to get near the top of the list. So just seeing how this product moves and just the feedback we're getting so far, I just the whole sales process is going to be a very different animal than what I think other people are going through in the market right now. These people are not dependent on a mortgage rate, interest rate, right? And they don't even need to probably sell their house in order to make this commitment, and certainly not to close on this commitment, right? So it's like a whole different animal to deal with. But it'll be like buying a Rolex or a Rolls Royce. Like you will have a very personalized, high-end white glove experience. You'll be, it'll be sexy, and it'll be I don't think we need to build a kitchen, like a scale model of a kitchen that will never be yours, right? Uh, in order to sell this product, like there's a vibe that you're gonna feel, right? This is what I'm thinking in my head, but who the hell knows? But I don't know, the days of a sales center, spending $1 million on a sales center and this whole crazy platinum agent thing where there's layers and layers of commissions wasted and brochures printed for people to take and throw in the garbage because they don't even know what the hell it says, or it just says a bunch of stuff that nobody cares about, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know who goes through those things and reads them, quite honestly.
Well, I think it's kind of like you said, different product type, different buyer pool. So I think your entire proposal building end user condos in Forest Hill is completely different than selling out a tower downtown, which is going to be 85% investor owned, right? So let
Yeah.
me ask you, how many units? Let's talk about the project a little bit in more detail because I'm interested. So how many units in total?
24 at the moment. I imagine some people will combine units and we'll end up at like 20, 21.
Okay, so 20, let's call it 24. And
Yeah.
can we talk
Smallest
price
unit?
point?
No, because we haven't said it yet. But the smallest unit is going to be just shy of 2,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
You you'll have main floor units that go front to back, glass on 3 sides on the main floor, like 2,700 square feet with a front yard terrace and a actual backyard. 14-foot ceilings. Then you'll have the penthouse that has like a wraparound terrace view of uptown, downtown. And there'll never be a building behind this thing. I mean, there's a 4 or 3 story building behind it now, but after nothing will go higher there because they're all rental buildings with rental replacement implications, right? So and it's in the neighborhood. It's such a special project. They're going to be writing articles about it all over the place soon because we got it zoned really fast, like really ridiculously fast. And it's in a neighborhood with all kinds of neighbor opposition. It was an
What do you attribute
interesting
that to?
story.
What do you attribute that to? The fact that it got through so fast? Because that is quick, especially in that area. You figured there would be issues.
Well, we closed October last year, and then we put an application in July, and we had our zoning approved February 5th. So like just over a year of owning it, but 6 months from when we put the application in. And this was like a tricky deal. We had rental replacement, moved it off site, bought, like had to do a second deal as part of it. Um, but what I attribute it to is the planning in the city has changed, right? The planning in the province has changed. And I was lucky enough to know it when TK was telling me about the deal. And, you know, the owners didn't know and like nobody knew except for me, right? And then I had to prove that I was right, right? But soon as I saw this deal, I just kind of knew. Up until now, it had been for sale on and off for years as a townhouse site, right? And so I just kind of envisioned it, and I worked really, you know, the houses had been vacant for 20 years, and 2 of them were condemned and demolished, and it was a real eyesore for the community, right? And it really kind of, you know, you drive into the village, and the first thing you see is like these 2 derelict projects. There's one just north of us, and then there's one like us, right? And so I think the neighbors were bitching about it being derelict and there forever. And then, of course, when the developer who can actually get the thing done comes in, they want to, you know, make sure that it can't get done or that it's a townhouse site again, right? But uh, the counselor and his staff and the planning staff were just on board with this. I could have got probably, you know, 15, 19 stories there, and I only went for 7. So it was like reasonable. We didn't push it. We worked with them. We had 5 community meetings with all the neighbors just to try and like get their input and satisfy them. And at the end of the day, it just the counselor said, listen, this thing is getting approved no matter what, right? One way or another, there's going to be a building here, whether it's townhouses or a 20-story building, your lives will be disrupted for years. Okay. So if he goes to committee of adjustments because we don't allow this scheme through, he's going to get more height. And you guys will be way less happy. And it will take longer and be higher, and you'll have more shadows and blah, 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 blah. Because the provincial mandates this area, it's in a MTSA, you know, whatever
Yep.
the hell that stands for.
Major
Metro.
transit station area. Yep.
Yeah. So this is in an MTSA and also in a neighborhood, like when the yellow belt is changing. It's just like everything kind of happened at once. And thank God, I don't know who came up with this. I want to think it was me, but it was probably my lawyer or someone on my team, right? That said, we should ask them to move the rentals off site, right? And then we started a conversation. This is all before we had even gone firm on the property. We had orchestrated a deal with the city staff and the city solicitor to move these rental replacements to another site. And that unlocked like so much revenue on this site. It's unbelievable, right? So it's just like, you know, the right team, the right place, the right time, luckily recognizing it. Also really lucky that we got out of our the deal we were in before that when we did and didn't get eaten alive by that thing because, you know, the whole world changed as we were trying to sell that thing. And so we, you know, we were lucky. We had cash, got a good opportunity. People might think I was crazy to buy something when I bought it, but they didn't know what I knew, right? So I mean, generally I look like a moron at the beginning to most people, and then it's like, oh, I should have invested in that deal, or I should have bought that deal from them, right?
Yeah, that's
But
the usual trajectory.
I mean, the planning staff are younger for the most part, and they understand that they need to get product on the market, right? And they don't want to fight. And I mean, I'm not young, but I'm younger. I'm not of the old mentality where it's like you go in for 30 and you end up with 15 and you're cool, because most people would have gone for six, right? Like that's a way. And you fight like hell and you spend all kinds of money in court and on lawyers and consultants. And I mean, sometimes it's worthwhile, but this thing was just beautiful. Nobody could have envisioned it at the time. I just got lucky.
Right, right. So let's say 3 to 6, let's call it 3 to 4 months. You figure out your sales process. You have 24 units to sell. What does the ideal, I guess, timing look like? You sell them out, and do you think you can sell them out this year and kind of, you're not putting a shovel in the ground this year, are you? Or at least do you
I,
think you are?
I hope so. I mean, I do truly believe that I have a decent amount of them pre-sold already, just from people that I've been talking to, from the list I've compiled, and the people in the pool of ownership that are really, asking regularly, what the hell's going on? What's the pricing? When are you launching? And I envision see what's happening right now. I don't know if a lot of the conversations I'm having now about this kind of product is that this end user, this person, this particular kind of buyer who can pay this kind of money for something like this, they don't want to really wait, a few years till the project's finished. And so if you look at, there's an interesting project in Yorkville right now, 138 Yorkville, that didn't launch. They just started building. And then once they were above grade, they finished their underground, they launched at like $4,000 to $6,000 a square foot,
Wow.
because they're targeting the person like who doesn't want to wait 7 years for that building to be built, right? Who's buying that? So I think, thresholds will probably come down for people that are willing to build for sales. You won't have to get that 65, 70%. Maybe you get away with 45 or 50. Some guys
Mm,
are figuring out how to finance it in a way where maybe they had 20 under the table percent, before they did even a launch, like a pre-launch, got enough on paper to satisfy somebody. Like these are big players doing this. But I don't know. I just like things are changing all over the place. And I think I really just got lucky with the timing and the planning. And I don't know. It's definitely changing. There's nobody in this industry that won't tell you the planning is changing in the city. It's like they change it and they do stupid things, right? They don't think it through all the way. So they're trying though. That's the key. They're really trying. And eventually it'll like make sense. I see more guys are switching to purpose-built rentals. More guys are looking at like in Vaughan, let's say, where they just drop DCs by 90% or whatever. Some guys are like, holy cow, like now things are starting to almost pencil. It's like one more thing away from launching some product that's sitting there. And then, you know, how long are these guys that are selling zone sites or have zone sites sitting on the shelf? How long can they wait? Like eventually guys are gonna have to sell at a number they don't want to sell for, I think, because nobody's
it,
buying the site.
I think you raise a very good point. With your project, if you can get away with pre-selling a fraction of what you would actually need to as per prior standards and then deliver a finished product, I think that's definitely a game changer for you, especially for the end result in terms of metrics and what you sell for per square foot. How's that project in Yorkville doing, by the way? Do you know?
I have no idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
But
Most
I
people
think
don't
time
even
is,
know about it. But there's one at Post Road that's doing very well from what I gather right now. And that's a new product in a new area where there hasn't been a building built in 30 years. So that's promising. And like one Roxborough sold, like they're already in construction. That thing sold for 2,800 bucks a foot. It sold out like right away. Right.
yeah.
So I imagine Two Post Road, from what I heard, they're doing okay. They'll get construction financing soon. And I'm not saying that I'm going to do it that way. I'm just saying people are thinking along these lines now. Maybe I will do it that way. I don't know if that's better or worse, but it'll allow things to launch in this category and get the people their product, relatively quicker than when you would normally anticipate, which I think is important because a big part of the problem is that if you are going to have a pre-construction market for an end user, nobody can plan their life 5 to 7 years out. And they certainly, like, if I'm getting married, right? I can't wait 5 years to move out of somebody's house, right? I don't want to live somewhere with my wife, with her parents, or with my parents. I want to move out, right? So, how do you buy a house? Because you're not buying it 5 years. I mean, I guess there's some guys smart enough to go buy a condo, and not have a mate, a partner, but that's kind of crazy. So like it just so many that the whole like in the States, they don't have to sell units before they launch a project. Maybe they do it in a couple of states, but for the most part, that's not how it's done. Right? We did it here to protect the developers, right? When we learned back in maybe the 80s that this is a bad idea, having all this pre-construction out there and it being our responsibility if they don't close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's a big mess. It's going to sort itself out. It's going to take time. There are categories that are safer than others, right? There are things that are worthwhile investing in right now. You got to work harder. You got to really have a edge, an extra edge, right? You
And
need some kind of a secret sauce,
that
right?
secret sauce comes by way of watching the Canadian real estate show on Sundays
That's
for that
right.
extra
And
insight.
yeah, and the Frankfort report live at 5 o'clock most weekdays. We take
Most.
callers now too.
I noticed. Awesome, man.